All right, how's it going, everybody? Happy New Year. I've also got a couple other holidays I've got to throw in there too. Happy belated Thanksgiving and Merry belated Christmas. Hope everybody had a great holidays and hope that your 2026 is starting off really good. Welcome to season 2 of Grizzly's Cave. This is Grizzly Andrew, and we are going to continue on the life of Hayabusa. However, I have made the executive decision because considering I'm the only executive for this podcast, I'm going to shorten up the life of Hayabusa. If I continue to keep reading from that document that I've read the last 3 episodes from, it will probably take until Christmas of 2026 or possibly Christmas of 2027 to actually complete it because it is a very big document. And it was the document from, I believe it was FMWworld at .net or .com. But if you folks are interested, definitely give it a good read. It is a lot of information, very in depth and very detailed. So I'm going to take a different route and go to everybody's favorite website, Wikipedia. And we're going to pick up from after Hayabusa had his match with Atsushi Onita at the May 95 Kawasaki Stadium show, which was basically FMW's version of WrestleMania, Starcade, Bound for Glory, etc. And just as a reminder, because it has been a couple of months since the last podcast episode was published, if you all will remember, Hayabusa had that death match with Onita, and it basically was to promote him as the ace of the promotion, or as WWE would say, the face of the company. So we're just going to pick up from after that match. So um, on May 17th, Hayabusa teamed up with Katsutoshi Niyama against members of the Lethal Weapon faction, the Gladiator Mike Awesome, and Horace Boulder, or again, for those of you who aren't familiar with Horace Boulder, Horace Hogan. He is the nephew of the late Hulk Hogan. Hayabusa and Niyama lost the match, and me personally, if you're gonna push a guy to be the ace, having him lose right off the bat is not exactly the best way to go. I personally am not a booker by any means, but even I would say that is not the best route to take when trying to promote somebody. Hayabusa was the leader of the new generation of FMW wrestlers, including Niyama, Masato Tanaka, Tetsuhiro Kuroda, and Koji Nakagawa. He wrestled the group's members in several tag matches, the group being Lethal Weapon for the next month after Lethal Weapon questioned his ability to become the ace of FMW and also vowed to take over the company. Hayabusa initially struggled to gain a fan base after Onita's loyal fans refused to accept him, but Hayabusa got to impress the Japanese fans by debuting the Phoenix Splash against Lethal Weapon member Ricky Fuji during a match on May 28th. For you modern day fans, you've seen the Phoenix Splash being executed. One example I know of is Seth Rollins. I'm sure there have been others that have done it. I just cannot think of which ones off the top of my head. If you have watched the Dark Side of the Ring series, and if you have watched season 3, episode 10, it's titled Blood and Wire, Onita's FMW. If you have seen that episode, you'll know what I'm referring to. Ricky Fuji even mentioned it as well because he was one of the wrestlers that was interviewed for this episode. He basically said for Onita's last match, you had a lot of people, which you got to think it's probably 50,000 people. The next video clip it showed it was that tag match that I had just mentioned, and you look around and the seats are empty. I mean, you maybe have a couple of hundred, excuse me, to maybe 1,000 people, if that. So Hayabusa had a huge mountain to climb in regards to establishing a fan base. Hayabusa's team lost, but the Phoenix Splash was heavily promoted by the Japanese media, which helped FMW in regaining the fan base, and Hayabusa started becoming popular due to his high flying skills. 1 month after his re debut, he was booked to win the promotion's top title, which I've mentioned on previous episodes, the Brass Knuckles Heavyweight Championship. He defeated Lethal Weapon member Hisakatsu Oya on June 27th, and he debuted his new finishing move, the Falcon Arrow. And if you're, and I'm sure a lot of you fans have seen the Falcon Arrow. I know Hardcore Holly or Bob Holly used that move, and there were several others that have used it. However, he immediately vacated the title due to injury, but a storyline was created, and so that he had vacated it because he wanted to beat the Gladiator Mike Awesome and all the members of the Wing Alliance. And for those of you that don't remember, the Wing Alliance were members of the now defunct Wing promotion, which was another Japanese deathmatch promotion. It only lasted for about 3 years, give or take. And for the record, I do intend on doing an episode about that promotion. The title was put up for grabs in the Grand Slam tournament. It was an 8-man tournament in a round robin format, and Hayabusa was put in the tournament. If you're not familiar with the round robin tournament, if you if you've watched the G1 Climax tournament that New Japan Pro Wrestling has had, it's basically that concept. You're basically in a certain block, like an A block or a B block, and it I think they had about 8 people per block, and you took on everybody. If you won the match, you won 2 points. If you had a draw, it was 1 point per competitor, and obviously, if you lost, it was zero. Pretty cool concept, in my opinion. Sorry about that. I had to take a drink. I'm actually drinking a can of Best Choice Zero Cola, and if you happen to shop at like a Food Giant, or if you're in Hopkins County, the Sherway or the Madisonville Marketplace, that's the place to get these drinks. They're not bad. They're not the best. If I had it my way, it'd be a Dr. Pepper zero sugar. But anyways, gonna have me some of that, and then eventually I'm gonna have me some Copenhagen pouches. And I know y'all heard me mention on the Nick Willis episode of how the Grizzlies name came into being because Grizzly is my favorite tobacco. Well, the tobacco place that just opened up on South Main Street in Madisonville, real nice looking um, store. It's called Wow, and they actually have a store in Henderson. So yeah, I'm going to give them a plug as well. Um, Generally, I've been getting my tobacco from there, but last Friday when I went, they didn't have Grizzly straight pouches, Grizzly wintergreen in the pouches. It was all long cut, and I've done long cut, but that shit gets stuck in my teeth and all that, and it's just a pain in the ass to deal with. So I went back to pouches. So now I'm doing Copenhagen straight pouches. They're okay, but nothing really to write home about. All right, so um, getting back to this tournament. Before the tournament started, Hayabusa was severely injured, by the Gladiator in a match on July 30th, but he insisted that he would compete in the tournament. Hayabusa started the tournament on August 22nd by defeating Masato Tanaka. He won his next match against Wing Kanamura on August 25th. He competed against Hisakatsu Oya to a 30-minute time limit draw, and then he defeated the Gladiator and Katsutoshi Niyama, and he eventually gained 9 points in the tournament. His first loss in the tournament was against Super Leather. Now, I don't think I've specified. I think I mentioned Super Leather in my previous episodes about Hayabusa, but like I said, it's been a couple of months, so bear with me. Super Leather is basically uh, their version of Leatherface, and this is going to be really old school. He was portrayed by a wrestler named Corporal Kirchner. If you followed WWF Golden Era, then you'll know who Corporal Kirchner is. He had a flag match at WrestleMania 2 against Nikolai Volkov. But yeah, that's who Super Leather was. Let's see. Then Hayabusa defeated Mitsuhiro Matsunaga to qualify for the finals. However, he lost to the Gladiator in the final round on September 25th. Hayabusa competed against Wing and Lethal Weapon members in various tag team matches, street fights, and death matches throughout the rest of 95 and early 96 before taking time off due to multiple injuries. Despite the injury, Hayabusa returned to FMW on March the 30th to rescue Jason the Terrible from an assault by Mr. Pogo and the Headhunters to set up the main event for the company's 7th anniversary show that would take place on May the 5th, where he would team up with Masato Tanaka to take on Mr. Pogo and Terry Funk in a no rope, explosive, barbed wire, time bomb, landmine, double hell death match, and the winner would receive 1 million yen. Okay, before I continue reading, I'm going to go ahead and say this. That is a lot of gimmicks to add to the match. I have seen this match. It's been about probably about 2 years since since I watched the match. It should still be on YouTube. It was like the match that Hayabusa had with Onita. It was a brutal match to watch. Um, it obvious as a fan and a spectator, obviously it didn't go the way that I think it should have went. I believe that Hayabusa and Tanaka should have won the match because, as I read earlier, they were the new generation of FMW. And again, if you're trying to push this guy as the ace of the promotion, you probably want to have him go over. And to be quite honest with you, Hayabusa should have won that match. To I hate to say use it as a consolation prize, but to make up for the fact that he'd had to do the job for Onita at the previous year's anniversary show. But anyways, Hayabusa was pinned by Funk. And another thing to point out is that at Sushi Onita, and you hear about this a lot with a lot of different wrestlers, how they'll retire and then they come back, retire and they come back, and God only I couldn't tell you how many times Terry Funk retired and came back. Same with Ric Flair, and and there's plenty others. I understand though too. It's hard to walk away from. I totally understand that, and I respect that. Um, if you get a chance to watch the match, you will notice that the camera does veer off to Onita, and he does look a lot different. He actually cut his hair. He didn't have the long black hair anymore, and he kind of looked like he had lost some weight as well. And after after the match, Terry Funk got on the microphone, and oh god, he cut a big old promo, laying into Onita. I mean, it was some good heel shit. Some of the things Funk said was is that Onita was scared. He was a coward. He said, "You send in your young boys to fight your battles," and when I say young boys, that's what they're referred to as trainees and all that when they're breaking into the business. Kind of similar to New Japan Pro Wrestling, their trainees are referred to as young lions. But yeah, Funk really cut into Onita for a couple of minutes, and it's like I said, it's some good shit. If y'all get a chance to watch that match, look it up. And again, it's Mr. Pogo. Just type in Mr. Pogo, Terry Funk, Hayabusa, Masato Tanaka. It was some good shit. Um, I think one of the things that, well, there was a lot of things that stood out, but one of the things I remember was Pogo blowing his infamous fireball. There were plenty of explosions as well. Yeah, it was, my God, it was insane. Um, After the one-off return, Hayabusa continued to heal his injuries, and he did not compete in FMW for the next 3 months. So technically, he really shouldn't have come back for that anniversary show. Now, if you've watched the rise and fall of FMW from Cult, I think it's Cult. I believe it was Cultaholic Wrestling. Uh, he was actually told, I believe, to have taken about a year off for all of his injuries, but he, I believe he, in my opinion, I believe he had that weight of the company on his shoulders, and I'm sure he was under a lot of pressure as well, considering they were supposed to be promoting him. So I believe that's why he came back earlier than what he should have. So, anyways, he returned to full time competition. He defeated Koji Nakagawa at the Summer Spectacular event. On September the 11th, he decided to debut an alter ego, and this was called Dark Side Hayabusa during a street fight against Hido at a wing show in which Hayabusa won. I've only seen one video with the Dark Side Hayabusa. Um, I'm sure I'll come across it here a little later, but I'll go ahead and give you a heads up. So there was some kind of pay per view, I believe, when FMW had a deal with DirecTV, and they had the pay per view. It was like, the best way I could describe it. It was like Bash at the Beach, but as a studio show, if that makes any sense. Had like Bash at the Beach type setting, with the beach chairs and stuff like that. Um, but like I said, it was more so, but it resembled more so like studio wrestling. And basically, the dark side gimmick would be the equivalent of what Jeff Hardy's Willow character or gimmick in TNA would be like. Basically, just more aggressive. Still considered a baby face, but had a lot more of an edge to him. And I mean, I actually thought it was a pretty cool gimmick. Dark Side also had different music. He had a different mask, just a whole different ring style. But anyways, I digress. Um, on September 20th, Jinsei Shinsaki from Michinoku Pro Wrestling challenged Hayabusa to a match. Um, and Hayabusa lost in the main event of Michinoku Pro Wrestling's event called These Days. This did mark the beginning of a future friendship between the two. Following the match, the great Sasuke challenged Hayabusa to a match at FMW's year end spectacular on December the 11th, and Hayabusa was victorious in that match. Meanwhile, moving on to around the 97, 98 era, Terry Funk formed a group called the Funk Masters of Wrestling. Oh, I love it. They would basically replace the Lethal Weapon faction as the new antagonist group, and Hayabusa wrestled the group members throughout the rest of 96 and much of 97. Um, Hayabusa's former friend, Mr. Ganosuke, returned to FMW and attacked Hayabusa after Hayabusa and Katsutoshi Niyama lost to the Headhunters in a tag team match on January the 5th, 1997. As a result of the attack, Hayabusa began a lengthy and emotional rivalry with Ganosuke that would continue throughout the remainder of his career. During this time, Ricky Fuji decided to side with FMW after the demise of Lethal Weapon and became an ally of Hayabusa. On March 19th, Hayabusa got his first title shot in nearly 2 years as he and Fuji challenged the Headhunters for the Brass Knuckles Tag Team Championship in a losing effort. Before I continue, I gotta say, I love the names of these championship belts that FMW had. I mean, Brass Knuckles Tag Team Championship, the Brass Knuckles Heavyweight title. I mean, you can't help but just love that. I mean, because everywhere else it was, and I'm not knocking other promotions. You'd have the World Wrestling Federation champion, you'd have the United States champion, um, you'd have the WCW World Heavyweight Champion, Television Champion. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking those championships, but to have a name like the Brass Knuckles Tag Team Championship, fucking A, man. Fucking A. I'm telling you, folks, if you haven't watched some of the old school FMW matches, go to YouTube and check it out. Good stuff. All right. The following month, Azaki served as the centerpiece of FMW during a meeting with All Japan Pro Wrestling owner Giant Baba to begin a partnership with All Japan and FMW. And Hayabusa would make his All Japan debut at the 1997 Champion Carnival by teaming with Yoshinobu Kanemaru, and they would take on Kentaro Shiga and Yoshinara Ogawa in a losing effort. This paved the way for the wrestlers of All Japan and FMW to sporadically appear in both companies and began Hayabusa's occasional appearances in All Japan. Hayabusa defeated Ganos. Well, actually, let me gear back for a second. I think the partnership was always there. It just didn't happen a whole lot during when Onita was the ace of the promotion from 89 to 95. For those of you that don't know, Onita started his wrestling career in All Japan Pro Wrestling, and he was actually slated to be the ace of their junior heavyweight division, and he had had a really good rivalry with Chavo Guerrero Sr., actually. And unfortunately, a knee injury sidelined him in 84, I believe, 83, 84, and he wound up retiring in 1985. Now, according to what I heard on the Grapple Vision video about Onita's FMW, back then it was your main promotions were New Japan and All Japan, and apparently the way it was is that if you retire from one or the other, then you were basically done, and henceforth that's what led to Onita forming FMW. Now, with that said, rumor had it was that Onita and Giant Baba were so close that allegedly Baba had considered adopting Onita at some point in time, but obviously that never happened. So Onita always had that connection with Baba, but now it's really starting. But at this point, it's really starting to take shape, which it should have happened a lot earlier. But it was good to see that it was coming to fruition at this point, if you will. Um, Hayabusa would go on to defeat Mr. Ganosuke in a hair versus hair match at FMW's 8th anniversary show. After the match, Hayabusa said that he would not cut off Ganosuke's hair if he left the Funk Masters of Wrestling and would side with FMW. Ganosuke would shake Hayabusa's hands, but shortly after he attacked Hayabusa, and then he removed his mask and attempted to blow fire on him until Jinsei Shinsaki would make the save. I mean, folks, that's good old school heel shit right there. I would say one of my favorite instances when opponents would shake hands and then the heel would attack the baby face. We have to go back to WrestleMania 19 in 2003. It was right after the Shawn Michaels Chris Jericho match. No, it was not a main event. It was middle of the card, and if I'm not mistaken, I think it was the fifth match. But out of all the 9 matches that they had, I would say that was the match of the night. But after Shawn Michaels pinned Jericho, Michaels offered his hand to Jericho to shake it and stuff. They shook hands, they embraced, and then Jericho gave him a low blow and then shoved him to the mat. And then you hear Jim Ross just going on a tirade. He called Jericho a sick, pathetic excuse of a loser. I mean, just good heel shit right there. Anyways, Hayabusa would form a tag team with Shinsaki. They teamed with each other for the first time uh, by teaming up with Koji Nakagawa against the Funk Masters of Wrestling members Hisakatsu Oya, Mr. Ganosuke, and the Gladiator Mike Awesome on July 19th. On August the 5th, Hayabusa teamed with Nakagawa and Ricky Fuji in a tournament for the vacant World Street Fight Six-Man Tag Team Championship. Again, another great name for a championship. They lost to eventual winners Oya and Ganosuke and Mike Awesome in the semifinal round. On August the 31st, the trio of Hayabusa, Nakagawa, and Masato Tanaka would defeat Oya, Ganosuke, and the Gladiator to win the World Street Fight Six-Man Tag Team Championship. On September 28th, Hayabusa wrestled 2 matches on the same day. He first appeared in a tag team match for All Japan at Korakuen Hall in Tokyo by teaming with Mitsuharu Misawa, and they defeated Jun Akiyama and Satoru Asako. He then traveled to Kawasaki, Kanagawa to compete at FMW's Fall Spectacular at the Kawasaki Stadium, where he and Shinsaki lost to All Japan's Kenta Kobashi and Manakia Mossman in what was considered a highly acclaimed tag team match. So that sounds like a match I need to watch. On October 14th, Hayabusa, Nakagawa, and Tanaka dropped the six-man tag team titles to what was now another faction. It was called the Zen faction, and that was led by Atsushi Onita. And his two partners were Hito and Tetsuhiro Kuroda. This would mark the beginning of another feud between Hayabusa and Onita, as Onita wanted to stay on top of FMW, while Hayabusa wanted to remain the ace of the company. Um, from from what I've heard through, from what I've seen and what I've heard through various videos about FMW, from what I could tell, there was definitely a lot of professional jealousy between Onita and Hayabusa. And Hayabusa actually did an interview for Oh God, what is it? RF video. There's like a beginning clip of it, and it's probably like 12 minutes worth. But I know Hayabusa had stated that he was never an Onita fan. And again, keep in mind, Onita came back to the promotion after he had already retired. So it's kind of one of them things where the old guard is coming back to knock the current, we'll say the current ace off of his platform, I guess would be a better way of saying it. So, yeah, I would say there was some professional jealousy. I would have to agree. Hayabusa and Shinsaki participated in All Japan's 1997 Real World Tag League, and they kicked off the tournament on November 19th by defeating Giant Kamala and Jun Izumida. They finished the tournament with 4 points as they would win only one more match against Johnny Smith and Wolf Hockfield while losing the rest of their matches. Okay, so hmm, I I would have to say this is one of them things. Uh, people from a different promotion coming in, it's not really going to make sense for them to win the tournament. But at the same time, I don't think they should have been buried as badly as they were. I mean, because Hayabusa and Shinsaki were both incredible wrestlers. Um, Kind of reminds me of when Vince did that whole invasion angle with WCW and ECW invading the WWF back in '01. I hate to say it, but those that came from the other promotions, they were, it was a glorified burying, and this is kind of sounds like what it's similar to. Hayabusa and Masato Tanaka would face off against Mr. Ganosuke and Yukihiro Kanamura in a losing effort for the vacant Brass Knuckles Tag Team Championship on November 28th. Let's see. Let me scroll down a little more here. Okay, I think I made it scroll down just a little too much. So we try that again. Bear with me, folks. This is the perks of having a doing this off a laptop. All right. On December 19th, Hayabusa and Shinsaki would unsuccessfully challenge Ganosuke and Kanamura for the tag team titles. On December 20th, Hayabusa, Hisakatsu Oya, and Masato Tanaka won the World Street Fight six-man tag team championship by beating Atsushi Onita, Hito, and Tetsuhiro Kuroda during the Super Extreme Wrestling World Tour. On December 22nd, Hayabusa, Shinsaki, and Tanaka defeated Zen members Onita, Mr. Ganosuke, and Kanamura in a War Games match after Hayabusa pinned Onita after a moonsault from the top of the cage as payback for his loss to Onita at the 6th anniversary show in 1995. I did watch this match. It was a good match, and that moonsault off the top of that cage was brutal, but I was happy to see that Hayabusa would get a little bit of, um, I guess, oh, geez, retribution. There we go. He got some retribution for what happened to him back in '95. Um, Hayabusa was getting over with the audience, and he was finally getting that heavy push. Friction arose within Zen, and Ganosuke formed his own group called Team No Respect. On January 16th, 1998, Hayabusa, Tanaka, and Oya lost the six-man tag team titles to Team No Respect members Ganosuke, Kanamura, and Jado. Hayabusa and his allies battled Team No Respect members for the next 3 months, and Hayabusa would lose a singles match to TNR member Kodo Fuyuki in their first singles encounter on February 19th. and it would actually begin a long-lasting rivalry with Fuyuki. Now, I know a lot. I'd never heard of Kodo Fuyuki until 2023. Uh, I should say, the late Kodo Fuyuki. He passed away from, I believe it was colon cancer back in 2002. He was also the booker for FMW, and not to speak ill of the dead, but allegedly he had Vince Russo style booking, bro, and you'll hear of some of the matches either later in this episode or in future episodes. But and again, if you've watched the Dark Side of the Ring episode, folks, if you've seen certain clips towards the end, you'll know what I'm talking about. The following month, Hayabusa won a tournament by defeating Masato Tanaka, Jado, and the Gladiator to become the number one contender um, for the FMW Double Championship, which basically unified the Brass Knuckles Heavyweight Championship and the Independent Heavyweight Championship. And those were both being held by, you guessed it, Mr. Ganosuke. On April 17th, Hayabusa and Masato Tanaka defeated Hito and Kodo Fuyuki to win the Brass Knuckles Tag Team Championship. On April 30th, Hayabusa defeated Mr. Ganosuke to win the Double Titles Championship at FMW's first pay per view, ninth anniversary show, Entertainment Wrestling Live. Now, before I continue, some of the matches that Hayabusa had, there is a video called The Flying Assassin, and you can find it on YouTube. And it doesn't, it includes the matches against Masato Tanaka. I don't remember seeing the one about, I don't remember seeing a match with Jado. There was also a match with the Gladiator, and then eventually a match with Mr. Ganosuke. It's about an hour and a half long video, and basically it's being comment. The two guys that are doing the voiceover commentary, I'm not very familiar with them, and honestly, I don't remember their names. But it was kind of similar to what Jim Ross and Josh Barnett did when they did the voiceover commentary for New Japan Pro Wrestling several years back. But every single one of them matches, oh my gosh, those were incredible matches to watch. I'd have to say my favorite match out of that whole spiel was the one he had with Mike Awesome. I mean, just it was really good, and I haven't at that point I hadn't watched a Mike Awesome match in many years, but I forgot just how much that guy could just fly. He could just fly around, for a guy that was like 280, 290 pounds. I mean, you definitely didn't see the Ultimate Warrior doing that at his body weight, and just Mike Awesome. I mean, he took no prisoners. But anyways, um, immediately after the title win, Hayabusa would appear at All Japan's 25th anniversary show, which was called Showdown at the Egg. He teamed with the All Japan owner Giant Baba and Kentaro Shiga against Jinsei Shinsaki, Jun Izumida, and Giant Kamala. Hayabusa got the win for his team by pinning Izumida. Hayabusa made his first title defense of the double championship against his tag team partner Masato Tanaka on May 19th, and Hayabusa would retain the title. This match would earn critical acclaim and is highly regarded as the best match of Hayabusa's career. And I watched that match with him and Tanaka on that Flying Assassin video, and I mean, it was fucking awesome. I mean, so that comes as no surprise that this particular match would get such critical acclaim, and and being highly regarded as the best match of Hayabusa's career. I mean, that's no shock at all. On May 27th, Hayabusa and Tanaka would lose the Brass Knuckles Tag Team Championship to Kodo Fuyuki and Yukihiro Kanamura. Shortly after, Tanaka left FMW, and if I'm not mistaken, folks, I believe immediately after he left FMW, I believe that's when he wound up in, uh, excuse me, ECW. So Hayabusa made Daisuke Aikita his new tag team partner. During this time, Ganosuke was injured, and Kodo Fuyuki became the new leader of Team No Respect. Hayabusa and his allies would split wins with Team No Respect at the June and July pay per views. On August the 2nd, Hayabusa made an appearance for ECW at the Heatwave pay per view, where he and Jinsei Shinsaki unsuccessfully challenged Rob Van Dam and Sabu for the ECW World Tag Team Championship. Folks, watch that match. It was incredible, and that's all I'm going to say on that. Hayabusa returned to FMW to begin a feud with Koji Nakagawa after Nakagawa pinned Hayabusa to win an elimination tag team match. And as a result, Hayabusa faced him as Darkside Hayabusa in a losing effort at the Welcome to the Dark Side pay-per-view, which that's the Bash at the Beach studio wrestling event that I had touched base on earlier. On September the 1st, Hayabusa successfully defended the double championship in his third defense against Hisakatsu Oya after the duo wrestled to a 30-minute time limit draw. He made his next title defense against Jado on September 20th, where he retained, and then he teamed with Ricky Fuji to take on Kodo Fuyuki, Koji Nakagawa, and Gato in an immediate handicap match, which he lost, and this earned Nakagawa and Fuyuki title shots at the double championship. Hayabusa successfully defended the title against Nakagawa at the October pay per view. On October 26th, Hayabusa and Aikita defeated Kodo Fuyuki and Yukihiro Kanamura to capture the Brass Knuckles Tag Team Championship. They made only one title defense against Hideki Hosaka and Tetsuhiro Kuroda on November 14th. On November 20th, Hayabusa lost the double championship to Fuyuki in his sixth title defense. Hayabusa participated in an over-the-top tournament. Actually, let me gear back for a second. So the double championship that he lost, he had about a 7-month title reign. Me personally, excuse me. Me personally, I think he should have kept it at least until April of, at this point, it would have been 99. I think he should have had about a good year run with it. I don't know much about Kodo Fuyuki. I never really watched any of his matches, but I'm not really big on the Booker putting the belt on himself. But you know what? Kevin Nash did it. Ric Flair did it. Dusty Rhodes did it. If it helps the company and it makes sense, I can understand that. But you know, that's neither here nor there. Um, Hayabusa participated in an over-the-top tournament to earn a title shot at the Doubles Championship by defeating Geto in the first round before losing to Hisakatsu Oya in the quarterfinal round at the ECW FMW Super Show 2. Now, folks, when I say Jado and Geto, yes, it is the two guys that you have seen in New Japan Pro Wrestling that were part of the Chaos and Bullet Club factions. All right, so now we're about to see a little bit of a character change for Hayabusa. So, in early 1999, Hayabusa and Daisuke Aikita vacated the Brass Knuckles Tag Team Championship after Aikita suffered an injury. On January 16th, 1999, Hayabusa reunited with Jinsei Shinsaki at an All Japan show to challenge Tamon Honda and Jun Azumida for the All Asia Tag Team Championship in a losing effort. Hayabusa and Shinsaki were granted a rematch on February 13th, in which they defeated Honda and Azumida to capture the All Asia Tag Team Championship. Hayabusa and Shinsaki made their first and only successful title defense against Masato Tanaka and Tetsuhiro Kuroda on March 19th. Hayabusa would then renew his rivalry with Mr. Ganosuke and formed an alliance with rival double champion Koto Fuyuki. Hayabusa and Fuyuki entered a round robin tournament for the vacant Brass Knuckles Tag Team Championship, where they qualified for the finals by topping the tournament with 13 points by winning all of their matches, except when they fought Masato Tanaka and Tetsuhiro Kuroda to a 30-minute time limit draw on March 29th. On May the 3rd, Hayabusa and Fuyuki lost to Tanaka and Kuroda in the final round. After the match, Hayabusa poured water on Fuyuki to revive him, which angered Fuyuki, and the two came to blows, and this ended the partnership between the two. On May the 5th, Hayabusa and Shinsaki took on Tanaka and Kuroda in a tag team match where the winner of the fall would earn a double championship match against Koto Fuyuki in the main event, and Kuroda pinned Hayabusa to earn the title shot. Fuyuki took over as the new commissioner of FMW, and an alliance was formed between Ganosuke's Outlaws and Team No Respect. On May 31st, Hayabusa, Masato Tanaka, Tetsuhiro Kuroda, Hideki Hosaka, and Hisakatsu Oya faced Koto Fuyuki, Mr. Ganosuke, Hito, Koji Nakagawa, and Yukihiro Kanamura in a 5-on-5 elimination tag team match, basically a Survivor Series style match, in which Hayabusa's FMW team won with a clean sweep as his entire team survived. On June the 4th, Hayabusa and Shinsaki lost the All Asia Tag Team Championship to the team of No Fear, which consisted of Takao Omori and Yoshihiro Takayama. Hayabusa had suffered multiple injuries during the past few years of his career, which forced him to change his wrestling style from high flying to mat wrestling. This was incorporated into a storyline that Koto Fuyuki would not allow Ezaki to wear the Falcon mask and compete as Hayabusa anymore. This led Ezaki to go through a character change. On June 15th, Hayabusa teamed with Masato Tanaka and Tetsuhiro Kuroda to defeat Mr. Ganosuke, Yukihiro Kanamura, and Hito in a ladder match, which stipulated that Fuyuki had to eat dog food if his team lost. Um, so yeah, this is one of the clips that was shown in Dark Side of the Ring about FMW. And I remember seeing that and I'm like, why? I mean, why? I mean, it just don't make sense. I mean, I've never ate dog food personally, but I've smelled it. And for the record, this wasn't dry dog food people that he ate. It was the wet dog food that you get in a can. And I've got a German Shepherd, and she'll go through a can of dog food like it's nothing. I mean, it tastes good to her, but it fucking smells. And I'm sorry, but that should not have happened. But anyways, uh Fuyuki was the booker, and he booked himself to eat dog food. So, more power to you. FMW held a series of events titled Goodbye Hayabusa, excuse me, as a farewell to Azaki's Hayabusa character. During this time, he participated in a tournament with Tanaka and Kuroda for the newly created WEW Six-Man Tag Team Championship. Now, before I move on, so WEW stood for World Entertainment Wrestling, and I actually learned that on the Rise and Fall of FMW video. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that was a Fuyuki call on that. And from also what I understood is that I think Fuyuki wanted to rebrand FMW to World Entertainment Wrestling, but President Shoichi Arai balked at that idea because he believed that FMW still had a lot of name value and name recognition. So I can understand Arai's standpoint or viewpoint, but I really think Fuyuki was onto something because at this point, around 99, FMW wasn't that was not the same FMW as it was a decade before when it was primarily death matches. So, but anyways, Hayabusa and his team reached the finals of the tournament on July 31st, and but they lost to Koto Fuyuki, Geto, and Koji Nakagawa. At the Hayabusa graduation ceremony, Hayabusa defeated Yukihiro Kanamura to win his third Brass Knuckles Heavyweight Championship and made his first and only title defense against Mr. Ganosuke on August 25th in his last match as Hayabusa, which he won to retain the title, but after that, the title was immediately retired. On August 27th, Azaki debuted his new character called H. And it, folks, it looks exactly how it sounds. It's literally the letter H. He had a complete makeover. He bleached his hair. He had tattoos on his chest, and I think he wore washed out jeans. He won his first match as H in an elimination match against Team No Respect. Ganosuke was injured in the match, and then he attacked H under the Hayabusa costume and attire on September the 3rd, thus instigating a feud between H and Hayabusa. This led to an anus exploding match between the two on October 29th, which ended in a no contest. Folks, you cannot make this shit up. I got to quote Conrad Thompson. I already know the answer, but who booked this shit? Um, this was the second clip that was shown in the Dark Side of the Ring episode, and Hayabusa was handcuffed to a turnbuckle, and they literally had bottle rockets shooting from Hayabusa's ass. I mean, what the fuck? I mean, that. I have to agree with the critics when they said this is Vince Russo style booking, bro. What? I mean, cultaholic, cultaholic wrestling. the narrator said they had to basically they had to shoot, you know, get your opponent in a compromised position and literally shoot bottle rockets from your opponent's jacksie. I mean, that's how it was worded. But what the fuck? I mean, that that's not going to sell tickets. That's not going to make. That's not going to get more fans to watch your show. That's literally like some crazy ass, no pun intended, crazy ass shit. But anyways, it's it's just it's starting to sound like it's becoming a circus at this point. But at the 10th anniversary show, H defeated the fake Hayabusa in the main event, and Shawn Michaels actually was the special guest referee. Um, H and Ganosuke reconciled after the match by shaking hands with each other to end their rivalry and form a tag team. On December 1st, H and Ganosuke defeated Tetsuhiro Kuroda and Hisakatsu Oya to win the WEW Tag Team Championship. However, H and Ganosuke lost the title to Kodo Fuyuki and Kyoko Inoue on February 25th, 2000. Okay, so if you don't know who Kyoko Inoue is, that is a female Japanese wrestler. She made two appearances for WWF back in 1995. She was the first appearance was at the 95 Survivor Series. There was a 4-on-4 women's elimination match. She was on Alundra Blaze's team, or Alundra Blaze, who we more commonly refer to as Medusa from WCW. Um, and then the second appearance that she made was the night after on Raw, and it was a tag team match where she teamed with Alundra Blaze, and they took on Aja Kong, and I believe it was Lioness Asuka. And for the record, folks, it's not the Asuka that we're familiar with today. Um, I'm not gonna lie, I thought Kyoko and I thought she was really hot back in the '90s. I actually watched some of her matches. You can find them on YouTube. Um, she wrestled for the All Japan Women's Promotion. She had matches with Aja Kong. She had matches with Bull Nakano. All a huge variety of female wrestlers. Um, I'm not against the idea. I'm not definitely not against the idea of a mixed tag team holding the tag team championship. I would say a lot of old school wrestling zealots would heavily oppose to that, but it's an interesting concept. It wasn't something very well heard of back then, and honestly, it's not really heard of today. But it was an interesting concept. So I'd be interested to see where this goes. All right, so moving along, H would defeat Kyoko in a singles match on March 27th. I did watch that match. It was actually a good match. Um, it's really ironic. So one of the reasons that Hayabusa switched his gimmick up to H, it's actually because he wasn't really big on the high flying wrestling style, and based on all the injuries that he suffered throughout his career, that's the biggest reason why. The H character was more ground based, but here's what was really ironic about this match with Kyoko is he actually beat her using the, well, he called it the Firebird Splash, but it's what we refer to as the 450 Splash. But it was still a good match. Um, let's see. On August 20, let's see, I'm sorry. My bad. On April the 3rd, H represented FMW against the new ECW Japan leader Koto Fuyuki in a losing effort. Okay, so I've heard of NWO Japan. This is my first time coming across ECW Japan. So, okay. H began feuding with Masato Tanaka due to Tanaka confronting H on forgiving Mr. Ganosuke. Azaki and Ganosuke lost to Tanaka and Balls Mahoney in a tag team match on April the 11th, during which Azaki went backstage as H and then competed as Hayabusa for the first time in several months. Okay. The H character had failed to garner crowd support and ticket sales were dwindling. And this caused Azaki to slowly transition back to compete as Hayabusa. At Backdraft, what the fuck? I'm guessing this is kind of their version of Backlash, but okay. He competed as Hayabusa in a win over Tanaka. On May 28th, H competed against Ganosuke and Tetsuhiro Kuroda in a three-way dance to determine the number one contender for the WEW Heavyweight Championship, with the champion Koto Fuyuki as a special guest referee. Okay, I would get rid of that and bring back the Brass Knuckles Championship. That just doesn't sound cool and menacing, but whatever. H would eliminate Kuroda, but then Ganosuke would turn on H by hitting him with a crutch and pinned him with Fuyuki's help and became a member of Shin Fuyuki Gun. Oh me. Okay, so now Fuyuki has another dad blame faction. There's been ECW Japan. There was Team No Respect, and now he's got Shin Fuyuki Gun. Um, and I say Gun because Minoru Suzuki had a faction in New Japan called Suzuki Gun. Um, on June 16th, Azaki would unleash the dark side of H and brought Hayabusa, quote unquote Hayabusa, as his tag team partner against Goldman and Koto Fuyuki. H and Hayabusa won the match to take revenge, or to get revenge on Shin Fuyuki Gun for attacking and kidnapping Ricky Fuji. On June 26th, actually, hang on a second, folks. Let me see who was the quote unquote Hayabusa in that match. Looked like it was. Oh, hang on. Oh, hell's bells. Oh, the joys of having a laptop. Um, let's see. Go back up here. It was. I'll be damned. It was actually Junichiro Tenru. Tenru doesn't strike me as a Hayabusa style. He didn't really strike me as a Hayabusa type wrestler. He wasn't really much of a high flyer. Um, he was more ground based. The only match that I've seen of Tenru, and that was stateside, was when him and Koji Katao took on Demolition at WrestleMania 7. But the only time he even got off the ground was when he went to the top rope for an elbow drop. But anyways, okay. On June 26th, H won the WEW six-man tag team championship with Hisakatsu Oya and Tetsuhiro Kuroda by defeating Koto Fuyuki, Kyoko, and Choco Ball Mukai. What the hell? I'm sorry. On July 22nd, Azaki retired his H character, thank God, and announced that he would begin competing as Hayabusa again after he and Tetsuhiro Kuroda defeated the Samoans. And for those of you who don't know who those guys were, think back to Ruthless Aggression era. There was a team called 3 Minute Warning, consisted of Rosie and Jamal. Rosie, who is the late Matt Anoa'i. Um, he is the brother of Roman Reigns. Um, he after 3 Minute Warning, he went on to wrestle with the Hurricane, and then Eddie Fatu, who we all knew as Umaga, God rest his soul. Um, he was Jamal during a 3 minute warning. On July 23rd, gummit, there we go. On July 23rd, Azaki revived his Hayabusa character after a year and defeated Shin Fuyuki Gun members in a gauntlet match to earn an immediate WEW Heavyweight Championship match against Kodo Fuyuki. Um, but he wound up losing um, after, I'm sorry, he wound up challenging Kodo Fuyuki, but he wound up losing after Jinsei Shinsaki turned on him. On July 28th, Hayabusa, Masato Tanaka, and Hisakatsu Oya defeated Fuyuki, Shinsaki, and Mr. Ganosuke after Hayabusa pinned Ganosuke. This match, this set up a match against Ganosuke on August 28th, which Hayabusa won to earn a shot at Fuyuki's WEW Heavyweight Championship. On September 15th, Hayabusa, Hisakatsu Oya, and Tetsuhiro Kuroda lost the WEW Six-Man Tag Team Championship to Fuyuki, Ganosuke, and Shinjuku Shark. Not familiar with that wrestler. On September 21st, Hayabusa defeated Fuyuki in a non-title 15,000 volt Thunderbolt cage death match. Now that's some shit I'd love to see. I've got to look that up on YouTube. And folks, I would suggest you all look that up too. If by chance anybody happens to find it, please email me at grizzliescave@yahoo.com. And for the record, there is no apostrophe in that email address. On September 26th, Hayabusa took on Fuyuki for the WEW Heavyweight Championship in a 60-minute Iron Man match, which ended in a draw. Oh my God. Hayabusa called it the hardest match of his career. After the match, Hayabusa demanded another title shot, which Fuyuki agreed. On October 29th, Hayabusa and Onryo, hopefully I'm not butchering that too badly, Onryo defeated Goemon and Fuyuki in a tag team match. On November 12th, Hayabusa got another title shot against Fuyuki at the oh my fuck, you gotta be fucking kidding me. They literally named a pay-per-view Deep Throat. Are you fucking kidding me, people? Wow. What the... Oh, Lord. Anyways, Hayabusa lost the match. Hayabusa and Fuyuki ended the feud after the match by shaking hands with each other, and then Tetsuhiro Kuroda turned on Hayabusa. Hayabusa then took time off to heal. Apparently, he had injuries to both of his arms. Um, Okay. This was November of 2000, this pay per view. And I'm sorry, but who the fuck thought it was a good idea to name that? Name a pay per view after a term that's referred to, well, we'll say it, videos with what they call mattress actresses, casting couches, etc. I mean, come on, people. You know what? I don't even now. Vince Russo wouldn't have even named a fucking pay per view like that. I mean, and and Mr. Russo, with all due respect, I really don't think you would have booked an anus exploding match. I mean, but I would say this is way beyond the Viagra on a pole and Judy Bagwell on a forklift match. But damn, oh my god. Um, Anyways, on November 22nd, Hayabusa had double elbow surgery. He returned to FMW at a pay per view on December 20th, just as a color commentator, along with Mr. Ganosuke, who had retired from wrestling after losing to Tetsuhiro Kuroda. During the match, Kuroda mocked Hayabusa to anger him, and Hayabusa headed to the ring, but Ganosuke held him back. On February 6th, 2001, Hayabusa made another non wrestling appearance to confront Kuroda, along with the masked Sumo. Sumo turned on Ganosuke, and Kuroda injured Hayabusa's arms with a folding chair until the great Sasuke made the save. On April the 1st, Hayabusa appeared during Kuroda and Fuyuki's WEW Heavyweight Championship match, where he attacked Mr. Ganosuke after Ganosuke attacked Fuyuki during the match, and then Kuroda and his allies attacked Hayabusa until Sasuke came to his rescue again. Um, Hayabusa made his in ring return at the 12th anniversary show on May 5th by teaming with Sasuke to defeat Kuroda and Ganosuke in an octagon cage electric bomb death match. Okay, that's another match I need to look up. So we've got a UFC style cage along with electricity and well, actually, I'm not really electric bomb. Never heard of that, but I've definitely got to look this up. This match also commemorated the 10th anniversary of Hayabusa's FMW debut on May the 11th. Hayabusa pinned Kuroda in a six-man tag team match to earn a title shot at Kuroda. On May 22nd, Hayabusa defeated Kuroda in a double hell barbed wire death match to win the WEW Heavyweight Championship with Koto Fuyuki as the special guest referee. So it really seems like it's kind of starting to seem like they're starting to kind of go back to the old FMW by bringing back some of the old death matches, um, but then adding in newer death matches. Um, on June the 8th, Fuyuki bought FMW from Shoichi Arai in Storyline and gave the wrestlers the option to either side with Arai or Fuyuki. Hayabusa sided with Arai by revealing that he had purchased 5% stock of the company. Tetsuhiro Kuroda also refused to side with Fuyuki, and this resulted in Hayabusa and Kuroda being paired to take on Mr. Ganosuke and Kentaro Kanamura in a tag team match, which they lost. Hayabusa made his first title defense uh, of the WEW Heavyweight Championship against Mammoth Sasaki on July 30th, where he retained the title. On August the 3rd, Hayabusa offered to put his 5% stock up for grabs if he, Goldman, and Onryo lost the six-man tag team match to Mr. Ganosuke, Kentaro Kanamura, and Mammoth Sasaki. Hayabusa was pinned by Kanamura, and he agreed to put his 5% stock in a 2 out of 3 match series on August the 11th. The FMW team and Fuyuki's team were even with a 1-1 score until Hayabusa lost the WEW Heavyweight Championship to Kanamura in the main event. As a result of losing the series, Hayabusa lost his 5% stock to Fuyuki, and Fuyuki sold the stock to Stuart Levy. On September 5th, Hayabusa defeated Kanamura to regain the title, but the win was reversed by new FMW Vice President Senmu Yoshida, who returned the title to Kanamura. On September 9th, Hayabusa teamed with Tetsuhiro Kuroda and Goldman to defeat Kentaro Kanamura, Kota Fuyuki, and Mr. Ganosuke to win the WEW 6-man Tag Team Championship. The following month, on October 9th, Hayabusa and Kuroda defeated Ganosuke and Mammoth Sasaki to win the WEW Tag Team Championship. After the match, Sasaki challenged Hayabusa to a match which stipulated excuse me, that if Hayabusa won, then Shoichi Arai would be reinstated as FMW president. All right, so folks, this next part's going to be hard to talk about, but bear with me. So the rematch that happened would also turn out to be Hayabusa's last ever match. And if you've watched the Dark Side of the Ring episode on FMW, you'll know what I'm about to talk about. On October 22nd, in a match with Mammoth Sasaki, and I've watched this match, and it's hard to watch. Hayabusa would suffer a career-ending injury when he attempted a springboard moonsault off the middle rope, and he lost his footing, and he landed on his head. He wound up cracking 2 of his vertebrae and left him paralyzed. For those of you who don't know what a springboard moonsault is, Chris Jericho did it a lot with the Lion Salt. Yeah, it was bad. The injury provoked a high fever, and he required surgery. Again, this injury ended his wrestling career. On the rise and fall of FMW, apparently Hayabusa, someone put a microphone up to his mouth, and he said, I think he told the crowd, "Wait for me, don't let FMW die." He was considered the heart and soul of FMW. Unfortunately, the company slowly folded after his departure. Let me think here. I believe it was, let's see, so that happened October of 01. Within 4 months, in February of 02, FMW sadly folded. Yeah, it was really hard to watch that, and it was hard to. It may not sound like it to you folks, but it was definitely hard to repeat all that. I mean, the man. I mean, guys and girls. The man was only like 34 years old. I mean, he was in the prime of his career. And on one of my earlier episodes, it might have been episode 2 or 3, but he had offers to go to other promotions. He had offers to go to New Japan, All Japan, WWF, and hell, I believe he also had an offer to go to WCW. I I don't believe he would have had a good career in WWF because Jinsei Shinsaki wound up going to WWF instead, and that's when he had the Hakushi character. And Vince didn't really pull the trigger on that one like he should have. Um, I think he could have been successful in WCW, um, and in their cruiserweight division, but he wouldn't have been pushed in the heavyweight division. He might could have even had a run with the television title as well as the cruiserweight championship, but I mean, at the all these years later, I mean, we can speculate the what ifs, but I think he might have done good in WCW if he had went there in the mid '90s instead of staying with FMW. But again, Hayabusa was very loyal to the company, and he favored loyalty above all things. And I mean, you gotta respect him for that. Um, post retirement, he did pursue a career as a singer. Um, he did promote a new wrestling company called WMF, which stands for Wrestling's Marvelous Future, and it basically was for up and coming wrestlers, kind of similar to what AEW was when they first started. The name was chosen since spelled backwards, the initials were FMW in honor of the late company. He did travel to some WWE events. He met some of his old friends like Sabu, RVD, and Rey Mysterio. He also took photographs with, and and I actually saw this as well in that FMW World document that I was gonna read the rest of his life story from, but decided to go a different route. There were pictures with John Cena, Edge back when Edge was the WWE champion, Lita back when she was the women's champion, Vince and Shane McMahon, Triple H, Jeff Hardy, and I mean he smiled big in all the pictures. What was sad to see was how he went from like 220, 230 down to probably 130 pounds. I mean he lost a lot of weight and size and everything. Um, it's really sad with what happened to him, but it was good in those pictures to see him that he was in good spirits. Um, on August the 19th, 2006, he attended the PWU, which stood for Pro Wrestling Unplugged. They had a Fahrenheit third degree event at the new Alhambra, which was formerly known as the ECW Arena. Um, this was his first appearance in the USA since 2000. Um, the last time being at E3 in Los Angeles, which was promoting the Tokyo Pops FMW DVDs. Um, and let's see, he was active in working with the Dragon Gate promotion. He recorded a debut album with Dragon Kid titled Trust, which came out in November of '07. He participated in the company's first U.S. tour. He joined them in their appearance in Los Angeles on September 5th and in Hawaii on September 8th of 2008. He also designed the tour's T-shirt. Um, in an interview, when asked about his career, he said that no one never knows what the chances are of a return to the ring. Um, on April the 3rd, 2015, he was part of a press conference announcing the return of FMW and that he would serve as the executive producer of the promotion. Um, There is another video by Grapple Vision on YouTube. It's called "The Rise and Fall of Hayabusa," and it's like maybe a 20-minute, 20-30 minute video. But the best part at the very end of that video, um, you see him dressed up in a tuxedo. He's wearing his Hayabusa mask. His his theme music begins to play. He's at the top of a ramp. He's in his wheelchair. He rolls down to he rolls down to the ring. But as he gets to the floor, to he stood up. He stood up. He was able to walk again. Um, he did have to use I can't remember if it was a cane or if it was hand crutches, but he did walk again, folks. He did walk inside a ring. He stepped inside. Mr. Ganosuke was there to help him, and somebody else might have been Ricky Fuji, might have been somebody else, but there were so many people in attendance at this event that saw him do this. They gave him an ovation. I believe Keiji Muto, who we know as the Great Muta, um, Tenru, just so many Japanese stars were there, and I'm not going to lie to you, folks. When I saw that, when I first watched it, it actually brought tears to my eyes. I mean, it was a miracle to see that again. Um, unfortunately, though, um, a year later, um, Hayabusa would sadly pass away on March 3rd, 2016, at the age of 47. He died of a cerebral hemorrhage. He left behind two daughters. One of them had interviewed on his behalf in Dark Side of the Ring. Her name was Ayan Azaki, and he had another daughter named Shai. I do want to mention this, that in 2004, him and his wife Harumi did divorce. However, they did remain friends while sharing custody of their daughters. Um, I mean, it really is. It's a sad ending, but I will say this: there was a little bit of a happy ending because he was able to walk again. It took a while, but he was able to walk again. Um, he definitely left behind an incredible legacy. Because, folks, I mean, he did inspire a lot of the wrestlers that we know today. He inspired Chris Jericho, AJ Styles, Pac, Will Ospreay, Kota Ibushi, Matt Sydal, who we know as Evan Bourne in the WWE, Ricochet, Seth Rollins, Mustafa Ali. They were all inspired by Hayabusa. And also, for you gamers out there, I got to plug this. Um, so I had the original PlayStation 1, and in 1997, my mom purchased WCW versus the World, and you could actually play as Hayabusa, but he was known as Habanero, and he does do the Phoenix Splash. He does do the Falcon Arrow, um, you know, in that game. He was also, for you N64 users, he was in WCW versus NWO World Tour. He was known as Hannibal, and in the WCW NWO Revenge, he was referred to as Han Zomon. whatever. Um, but he was also in the Japan exclusive N64 games, Virtual Pro Wrestling 64 and Virtual Pro Wrestling 2, Odo Keisho, and the Japan exclusive PlayStation 2 game, Wrestle Kingdom 2, Pro Wrestling Sekai Tyson. Um, folks, if you ever decide to get into the wrestling business, injuries are going to happen, accidents are going to happen, and unfortunately, it was a freak accident that happened to Hayabusa. But I will say this, in my opinion, hands down one of the best high flyers ever in the business. God rest his soul, and Hayabusa, thank you for everything that you did for the business. Thank you for the innovative style that you created. Thank you for your loyalty to FMW. Thank you for everything that you did for this promotion, or thank you that you did for that promotion. Thank you for everything that you've done for this business. All right, folks. Well, that is going to wrap it up on the life of Hayabusa. I want to thank all of my listeners again. Thank you for your support. If you uh, if you like this video, give it a like and subscribe. I will have it on YouTube. Once I get it posted to Spotify, then it will go to my other platforms. If you are interested in sponsoring Grizzly's Cave, email me at grizzliescave@yahoo.com. If you'd like to write into the show and like some of the episodes that I have are just about experiences that I've had at live shows, etc. If you got to go to a show and you want to, speak about your experience, you can email me at grizzliescave.com. I'm not quite sure when the next NAW wrestling event is over in Nebo, Kentucky. I know it's in February. It might be the 7th, but once I get a date, I can update you all on that. Again, folks, thank you again for your support. And this is Grizzly Andrew signing off, saying take care and God bless.